David Axelrod is the president's chief campaign strategist. He joins us from Chicago. Welcome, Mr. Axelrod. Let me start with this. As the price of gas has gone up, the president's approval ratings have gone down. But when the Republicans started pummeling the president about this, he sort of poked fun at them. Here's what he said last week.
They tell the same story. They head down to the gas station. They make sure a few cameras are following them. And then they start acting like we've got a magic wand and we will give you cheap gas forever if you just elect us. Every time. Been the same script for 30 years. It's like a bad rerun.
But here's the irony, Mr. Axelrod. It is like a rerun because this is what candidate Obama said about George Bush 4 years ago.
All the while here in Ohio, you're paying nearly $3.70 a gallon for gas, 2.5 times what it cost when George Bush took office.
So what about that? So what is the strategy? Is the price coming down? Do you have a plan to do that, I mean, in the short run?
Well, first of all, I'm interested to hear that clip because in June of 2008, the price of gas was $4.10 a gallon. What it underscores is the fact that we're in a global oil market, and when we're dependent solely on oil, we're affected by the rate shocks again and again and again. And what he said then, what the president said then, and what he's enacted during this administration is that we need an all-of-the-above policy so that we can break this dependence on oil. That yes, we need to produce more oil domestically. We're up 12% since he's been president. We're producing more than at any time in 8 or 9 years. But we also, and we're producing more gas than ever before. But we also have to explore other things, renewable energy. We've doubled the use of renewable energy, wind and solar, biofuels, and we have to save more. And he's increased fuel efficiency standards for the first time in 3 decades in conjunction with the auto industry. That's saving 1 million barrels of oil a day. When they're fully implemented, 2.2 million barrels of oil a day. The notion that we can simply drill our way out of this, or that somehow that if we say that the gas prices will go down magically now, Newt Gingrich's $2.50 a gallon and so on, that's not oil talk, that's snake oil talk, and the American people know the difference.
Mitt Romney said, I think as late as yesterday, that the president actually wanted gas prices to go up when he was running for president. He also said the president should fire his 3 top energy people because they were trying to get the price up. What's that about?
Well, I think it's about nonsense is what it's about. And obviously, you heard the president 4 years ago. He wasn't advocating higher gas prices. Again, we have to have a national strategy for getting control of our energy future. And that involves persistence, not just in increasing domestic oil and gas production. And we've freed up tens of millions of new acres for exploration and for oil production in the future. But we have to explore these other avenues. And if we don't do all of those things, we're going to be right back here again every election season, and politicians like Mr. Romney will pander, and the poor American consumer will be left in the same position. And so we need to keep going forward with an all-of-the-above strategy on energy.
Was it a mistake now in retrospect to stop that Keystone Pipeline project? That was they were going to bring a pipeline to bring the oil down to the Gulf Coast from Canada. That put a lot of people to work, amongst other things. You have regrets about
Bob,
not going on with that?
You should direct that question to Mr. Priebus and to the Republican leadership in the Congress, because what they did was force a premature decision on this. The State Department said they needed more time to evaluate the project and all of its implications, including what it would mean for the water aquifers in Nebraska. And the Congress wanted to force a decision for political reasons, and they did. And so not having the time to make a proper decision, they had to decline this this proposal. If it's resubmitted, it'll be considered again, and hopefully in the time frame that is appropriate. But understand, this president has approved dozens of pipelines. He's going to speak this week about another, a spur from Oklahoma to the Gulf, so we can relieve a glut of oil that we have and get it down to refineries there. So he's certainly not hostile to transporting oil, but we have to do it in the appropriate way and protect the public safety in doing it. So no, it may have been a mistake for the Republicans to force the decision so quickly. That I agree with, but that's their decision to explain, not ours.
You know, it seems like that you all were waiting for the Republicans to pick a nominee before you actually sort of kicked off the general election campaign. But I got the sense last week you were tired of waiting and decided just go ahead when the president and the vice president went out there and made some pretty strong attacks. Do you have any idea who you think you're going to be running against yet?
No, I don't, and you should address that to your next guest. You know, we thought we'd have a nominee by now, but, you know, every time it looks like Mr. Romney has some momentum, he gets set back. He hasn't been able to make the sale to his own party. And, you know, here in Illinois, we have a primary on Tuesday. He's outspending Rick Santorum 7-1, and yet the polls are pretty narrow. Narrowly in his favor right now. So I think the Republican Party is having a hard time picking a nominee. I will say this, Bob, I do watch him parading around this state calling himself an economic heavyweight, and it's the same pitch that he made in 2002 to the people in Massachusetts. And what happened? Massachusetts went from 10th in the nation in job creation to 47th. Their debt went up 16.5%. Government jobs grew at 6 times the rate of private sector jobs. If that makes you, if he thinks he's an economic heavyweight, he must be looking in a funhouse mirror, because that is not the record of an economic heavyweight.
All right. Well, Mr. Axelrod, we thank you for that.